and less government then?
You look at the facts, and you look at what has been done. We cut spending. The Republicans increased spending. Period.
Are your stats, are you using GRF?
We're using GRF, we're using operating budgets, we're using the same facts and figures that you all used when you wrote the articles during the budget process, talking about all the cuts that we were proposing and ultimately making. You talked in your papers about how we cut monies for mental health, how we cut monies for hospitals, how we cut money for nursing homes, how we cut money for libraries. We made cuts. They were painful, difficult cuts. We made the tough decisions that the Republicans refused to make in more than a decade before.
And Republicans make an argument, including Bill Batchelder, that for most of the time you cited, they were not, these particular legislators were not in office. This is a new leadership team. This is, with term limits, most of these folks weren't even in politics during these past years, and they argue, look, that wasn't us.
I haven't heard Bill Batchelder disavow Bob Taft, disavow John Huston, disavow Joanne Davidson, disavow any of the leadership that has been there. I have not heard Bill Batchelder disavow Bill Harris. I've not heard Bill Batchelder disavow anybody that has been involved in the leadership over the last decade.
And just to add to that, one of the candidates that we are talking about here today, Mike Duffy, when Mike Duffy was on Worthington City Council, when he was in local government, he increased spending by over $2 million during the worst economic crisis in decades. He even voted to raise his own taxpayer-funded salary while in office. And under his watch, the city of Worthington operated in the red 3 out of the 5 years that he served on council. And then he also worked for a nonprofit group that mismanaged public funds. There clearly is a record there of somebody who, while in office, increased spending, and I think he voted to even support raising taxes.
I mean, Mr. Speaker, you know what's going on. I mean, you guys are using GRF numbers and the Republicans turn around and using all funds. I mean, that's going to happen. Have you looked at all funds to all funds and made the same claims that you cut, maybe spending will be less on the Democrats than the Republicans when you sort of use the terms that they're kind of using on their side of the
First of all, the all funds number is a false number. You all know that. The all funds number includes monies that are not tax dollars. People are concerned about where their tax dollars are going. That's the issue. Are there tax dollars being misspent? Are we spending more tax dollars? That's the issue. And the all funds number includes a lot of money that's not tax dollars. The all funds money double counts dollars. The all funds money includes pass-through money that we don't control. And even if you compare all funds to all funds, the spending is less under the Democrats.
Not surprisingly, Bill Batchelder today at his press conference criticized you and the governor for raising the income tax by $900 million. I'm sure you know what he's referring to. The voters are going to hear these two different competing lines about spending and taxes. How do you ensure that yours is the one that is heard the loudest?
Well, we're talking about it, and we count on the media to present the facts correctly, and we hope that'll happen. But all we can do is state the facts, and we're going to keep doing that. And if that bothers the House Republicans, that we're talking about what the facts are, and we're talking about their voting record, and we're talking about the fact that even we're looking at this Republican House and what they did, the amendments they submitted in this budget that would have added $2 billion. That's not some other legislature. That's these House Republicans. And if they don't want us to bring to light what their actual vote was, then they shouldn't have voted that way.
I would also just add to that, today, state income taxes, personal income taxes are 17% lower for every single Ohio resident than what they were going back 4 years. Even if you look at 2010 as compared to 2009, if you assume the same tax bracket, every single Ohio taxes, personal income taxes are lower in 2010 than they were in 2009. If your taxes are lower in 2010 than they were in 2009, I think one possibly with a straight face consider that to be some sort of serious.
mentioned the $2 billion in amendments. Do you have one or two examples you can give that maybe are like the big ticket amendments that may have
Yeah.
Also, recently, I believe, most of the examples they had were Ohio Democratic Party mailers. There was one, I think there was one or two paid for by the national committee, but any, they're calling them personal attacks, uncalled for lies, particularly focused on Matt Carl's as Todd Schnitchler's. Any response to
Well, again, I have no specifics, but I can tell you that those mailers that we're involved with are factual. And again, if they're upset because of the facts that we're discussing, then, they shouldn't take the positions that they have. But even today, I'm told that the Republican leadership reaffirmed their support for cutting 40% of the state revenue and the impact that would have. I mean, you all know what we went through with a $3 billion deficit in 2009. If you cut 40% of the state revenue and add $12 billion more to the deficit, you will devastate this state. We will have to close parks. They will have to make unbelievable cuts to the libraries and hospitals and social services, critical needs for the poorest of the poor in this state. There's no way it's unthinkable that they would, at this time, when we're already facing a huge deficit, even consider eliminating the income tax. Now, we agreed to maintain the tax cuts that were passed in 2005. We maintained the structure. But we also paid for it in our budget. We balanced the budget. We made cuts that they did not make when they cut the revenues in 2005.
Even though some of these have been sent by the state party and the national party, is there any fear or anything that could come back negatively on any of your candidates? Maybe a voter might be turned off and vote. So I know Representative Dodd has said that he thought some of the ones in his previous campaigns might have backfired and gotten more support. I think that might kind of hurt any of your candidates.
People in this state do not like ads of any kind that are false and misleading. And nothing we are sending out will be false or misleading. But we will talk about their record. We'll talk about their record of increasing state spending. We'll talk about their record on specific votes that they took. We'll talk about the fact that House Republicans voted against protective orders for teens in violent, abusive relationships. We'll talk about the fact that they voted against adequate funding for our schools when we passed House Bill 318. They voted their votes would have led to $2 billion in cuts to education. We're going to talk about the facts. And if they don't like it, they should not have voted that way. But the public deserves to know how they voted.
Do you have a problem with any of the mailings that have gone out thus far?
I don't know that I've seen all the meetings that have gone out.
Well, just to follow
And I certainly don't control any national meetings. We can't even talk about it. Legally, we can't talk about any national.
I mean, just to follow up on this, an example of one of the mailings that's gone out, I think it was from OEP. It says, "There's a rat at the State House." And there's a picture of a rat on there. I think it's the Schnitzler race. It's essentially calling a state representative a rat for how he's voted. Do you think that kind of characterization is fair?
If you look at that piece, which I've had occasion to do now, it talks about the fact that Todd Schnitchler supports cutting 40% of state revenues in state government, which would cause, for example, $250 million to be cut from Stark County schools. That's an across-the-board cut. It would mean teacher layoffs. It would mean increased property taxes. It would mean fewer police and fire on the street. It would mean less money to local government. Those sorts of things are all factual. And it's factual that he supports that bill. And if the piece is provocative, You know, the fact is that we're talking about facts, we're not talking about falsehoods and entities. And he should not be embarrassed about his positions, which he has taken over the years.
How about the other piece they were talking about was one linking Matt Carl, I think, to the oil spill. Visuals of workers with oil all over their hands, and I think the link was that he has lobbied for big companies like BP. Is that fair game to, basically portray him as somebody that was somehow responsible for the oil spill in the Gulf?
Is that the same Matt Carl that in 2006 doctored photos of the Twin Towers, which were involved in the biggest and worst and most horrific terrorist attack in this country? And he has the nerve to say anything. It's my understanding that Matt Carl has supported tax breaks with big oil companies, and we are just simply saying so.
Leader Batchelder today, when talking about some of these mailings, said, we shouldn't be smearing people. He said it's to discuss opportunities and remedies, and at the end of the day, not to run around like fascists handing out this kind of literature. Any response to that?
I think that it's, in the one breath, we again are seeing hypocrisy. In one breath, the leader is talking about, is criticizing a negative campaigning, and then calls Democrats fascists, which is about as